Item 15. The matter of the memorial on the centenary of World War I. Jane. Hello, Jane.
Good morning.
What time did you get to bed this morning? Okay, so I want to acknowledge you. Good to see you here. Right, Jane. What can you tell us, please?
Thank you, Worship. On your agenda you have a background paper, and circulated to you now, I believe, is a confidential addendum and associated attachments.
And you're circulating that now because of what reason?
Because the steering group that has informed that decision met last night at 6 o'clock and concluded their meeting at 10 p.m. That information has been collated in the addendum that's been circulated to you and is only available in the time frame.
That's very good, and I want to acknowledge Councillor Mike, who's the chair of this working group. Righty-ho, away we go. Jane?
Thank you. May I ask if the presentation can be brought up?
Fire away.
Just wait till the presentation comes on screen. What I propose to do, Your Worship, is simply take you through the pile of paperwork that you have. Obviously, you haven't had an opportunity to read it. That will give you essentially the same content that you have in front of you. So the first slide here simply shows us the proposal that was on the table in 1930 that helped ignite some of the discussion around the proposal to put a memorial on the close in front of the War Memorial Museum. The second two images just remind us of the nature of the close in the 1940s and as it is today. As the report in your main agenda highlights, the process that's been undertaken to get to where we are today included a request for an expression of interest that was put out widely through Council's normal procurement processes, and through that process Council received 15 expressions of interest. The consortia that put those expressions in were given the brief. The brief is attached in one of your bundles of paperwork so that you have a full copy of the brief. One of the pages of the brief is shown on the screen at the moment. It just highlights some of the key messages around the location and intention of the memorial to be within the central axis leading off the museum and located adjacent to Domain Drive. Following the expression of interest process, 5 consortia were shortlisted and invited to submit concepts. Each one of those 5 consortia were offered $15,000 to prepare their concepts and given 6 weeks to do so, to have their submissions in on the 22nd of December last year. The 5 concepts were then presented for public comment during the first couple of weeks of January, the 8th to the 24th of January, at the Auckland War Memorial Museum, and they were also made available online. The 5 concepts are in your paper that you had pre-circulated, and I've briefly put them up on the screen. The numbering of the concepts remains consistent through all of the reporting, so what we refer to as Concept 1, Te Takuahi, the hearth, is shown on the screen now. Concept 2, Te Whenua Motiatia, or the landscape of memory. Concept 3, Te Waka Wairoa. Concept 4, Te Korowai, the cloak. And Concept 5, on home ground. Public engagement was strong given the time of year. We had very high visitation at the museum. We're fortunate to therefore get very strong engagement through manual feedback at the museum. 82% of the feedback was received in that way, and the rest was received online. The questions in the public engagement were in 2 parts. One was asking the public whether or not they felt that concepts met the brief, and the second provided an opportunity for open comment. For the first part of the questions, there were very strong responses, and there is a copy of the responses as a further attachment in your pack that's been handed out. The responses showed very clearly that Concept 1 and Concept 4, the public felt met the brief. I'm sure Your Worship and councillors need no advice that there was also a lot of media coverage during this time, which was great in terms of promoting the project, and a reasonable amount of editorial comment, which was both strong and mixed. The process that was undertaken after that point was an officer evaluation was undertaken in accordance with normal procurement practices, and the officers recommended to the working group that Te Korowai the Cloak received the highest score from that evaluation. However, subsequent to the officer evaluation, the public feedback was distributed, and also subsequent to the officer evaluation, an independent quantity survey was sought and received. The comment in the report and on screen highlights that there were 3 of the 5 designs were assessed by an independent quantity survey as being in excess of the budget available, and in particular noting that the officers had ranked Te Korowai as the top scoring concept prior to the quantity survey. Te Korowai is noted as being significantly in excess of the budget, and while the designers were asked for comment and replied that they could still achieve the design within the budget, it was nonetheless noted by the working group as a red flag. In addition to all of the above, the steering group were very keen to take the time to listen to some key stakeholders, some of whom particularly asked the process to be halted while their feedback be sought. And so over the last week that has occurred. You have another addendum circulated to you today with reasonably full comments from those stakeholders, and I've briefly summarised those on the presentation. The first, David McGregor from the Fields of Remembrance, essentially would support either concept 1 or 2, providing if that decision was made, it was clear that the concept would need to continue to be refined and in particular connect with the War Memorial Museum. Graham Gibson, President of the Auckland RSA, advised that the Auckland RSA could only support concept 1 or 2. The others carved up and had an impact, too much of an impact on the close, or the area in front of the museum, which the return servicemen generally revered as an extension of the museum. Mr. Pat Johnson, President of the Auckland Combined and Districts RSAs, was supportive of the idea of the memorial, and in particular he liked concept 4 as it evoked the idea of terracing etched into the hills. Ian McKenzie, President of the Passchendaele Society, believed that concept 2 was the only concept that approached the brief and could continue to be enhanced to link more clearly with the museum, with the addition as well of seating to add a place of contemplation. Professor Mike Pritchard, who's the Dean of the Faculty of Architecture and Property and Planning and Fine Arts, the former Dean of the Faculty of Architecture, Property Planning and Fine Arts at the University of Auckland, and somebody that's heavily involved in the Passchendaele exhibitions and ongoing education, could not support concept 3, 4 or 5, and noted that concept 1 was more in the style of what he felt addressed the brief and was needed in Auckland, and concept 2 was simple and could also be continued to work on to meet his aspirations. Finally, Lieutenant Colonel Chris Mullane, Vice President of the Passchendaele Society, noted that in general the principle that should be retained is to retain the open space in front of the museum. He would like to see a form of processional way, and he liked the hearth, noting that it needed some alteration so that the seating in connection with the museum was clear. So that was very fulsome feedback, and as I mentioned at the beginning, last night the steering group met for another occasion. Many occasions have we've been considering this, and received a range of reports, including a recommendation from their own working group, which recommended supporting Te Takaahi the Hearth. The steering group last night considered a motion from Councillor Lee to ask for specialist advice as to whether or not we could work with 2 of the concepts or 2 of the designers. That motion wasn't supported. So the steering group endorsed last night the recommendation of the World War I Centennial Memorial Working Party to select the concept Te Takaahi the Hearth, which in terms of the earlier presentation the numbering is concept number 1. The recommendation which is in front of you in the report is very clear that it would be subject to ongoing refinement, and that they believe that through that ongoing refinement the concept could very accurately reflect the brief and create a reasonable connection with the Auckland War Memorial Museum while still protecting the open grass area in front of the museum. So finally, Your Worship and Councillors, the options before you today are relatively simple. You are being asked to either endorse the recommendation of the steering group and therefore select the design Te Takuahi the Hearth. The implications of that would be that the project continues under the guidance of the working group, and as outlined, there would be a number of steps that would immediately follow this meeting in terms of advising the consortia, advising stakeholders, a media release. Lottery's funding application, quite critically, is due on the 24th of February next week, and that would, a decision to support that would enable the Lottery's funding grant application of $2 million to proceed, and the working party would then continue to evolve the design to address the feedback from the public and stakeholders. The second option of not selecting any of the designs would at this point in time either halt the project altogether or would it require us to start again to a degree. I've been asked to pass on the sentiments of the chair of the steering group who can't be with us today. She noted that a decision of this nature would essentially show that Council has lost sight of the reason for the project, and that in simple terms she felt that 100 years later this still matters to the Auckland public. The option of not selecting a design today would also prevent an application being lodged with New Zealand Lotteries next week and therefore prevent...
Hang on. Stop, please. Councillors, I just want 5 minutes. Just need to discuss a matter of a due process here and standing orders, just in terms of how we finalise the discussion of this matter. There was some advice from our council that parts of this item should be held in confidence because of the fact that we would need to conclude a negotiated position, and we want to hold our cards to our chest because funds and money are at stake here. So can I just have a couple of minutes? Perhaps get a cup of coffee. If anyone wants a pit stop, have a pit stop. And we'll come back to it in, say, 5 minutes. Is that all right? I just want to reflect a bit. Just to be clear. Thank you. we'd spend a full be over time, you know. As long as you get the thing in properly, it should be enhanced over time. Are you all there? Very good. Okay, right, sorry about that. You all know that if I'm not quite sure how we're to go, then I'll seek a bit of time just to clear my head. Okay, so what was originally intended here was for there to be a report, and Jane has given us in effect a background report and an update on where things are at. Now, the issue of making a determination on recommendation from the committee and then discussion about that, of course, has reputational ramifications for those who are applying, but also it has financial repercussions in terms of the fact that in the event that we make a decision today to support one of the proposals, then we're going to go into negotiations. And on the basis that we had disclosed a position and or secondly talked in the public space about the detail of the discussion that's primarily been going on, I suspect, as a matter of confidence within the bodies, would I think be putting us or putting those who have participated in this process thus far in a difficult situation. So what I think we were trying to achieve here, and the officers have reiterated their view to me, as has our lawyers, is to get an update report from Jane, and then to take this matter into confidential.
Yes,
so that we can
I agree, Mr. Mayor.
So that we could, thank you, Mike. I'm very pleased to hear that. So that we could then take this matter in for all of us to appropriately consider. So Jane, sorry, it's no disrespect to you. You've given a very, very good update. And in terms of the update, is there anything more that you could add?
No, Your Worship, the last slide that I was on was in fact the finish of the summary.
Good. Do you want to finish the last slide then?
If we can. So as noted, importantly, we're inviting you today to consider the recommendation of the steering group, which was only made last night, and that is to endorse the selection of the design Te Tapu Ahi, the hearth, noting that we would continue to work on this. This is a concept only, and that in working on it there would be the scope to significantly address public and stakeholder feedback. The other option is to not select any of the designs. I won't reiterate what's in front of you there, but significantly this would either give you two options, either to halt the project or to initiate the project under another guise.
Okay, and just the only question I think that probably needs to be just rounded out before we head into a more in-depth discussion. So lotteries. They have got a close-off date, 24th February, so that's the reason why we're discussing this today. And once that's closed off, is this the last round with lotteries for World War I?
Yes, Your Worship, we've been advised on a number of occasions this is absolutely the last application opportunity, and they are expecting an application from Auckland.
Okay. All right, look, councillors, I think there's a lot of discussion to be had. I want to hear from Councillor Mike, and so we'll do that, and other councillors who are a part of that. And I understand that the Deputy Chair, Greg Moyle, will be here too, and I want to ensure that he's part of the discussion. Now, Charles, we've got you here as a local board chair. It's probably appropriate to have you here. I don't want to cast thousands outside of that. So, councillors, I will move that we receive the update and progress, and secondly, that we, for all the reasons that I've outlaid previously, take the rest of this matter into confidential. Second that, Councillor Christine.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, Councillor Kathy.
It was just, I'm a bit confused by who
the bodies are? Can you just tell me the
Oh, very good.
hierarchy?
Yeah, really
It's
good.
the steering group and then there's
Yeah,
the
there's a lot.
working party.
Yeah,
I don't
there are
understand.
thousands there. Okay, so where you go, Jane? Give it.
I can explain that.
Yeah, I think it's best just to, we'll have that from an officer, I'm sure we can, Mike. Right, where you go.
Thank you, Worship. The steering group, the World War I Commemoration Political Steering Group, consists of 18 members, including councillors and local board members.
Yep.
They appointed a working group, so the World War I Commemorative Memorial Working Group, that consists of 5 members of the steering group. Both of these groups were appointed and endorsed by the governing body.
Right, good.
Did the working group have delegated authority to see this through to the end? What's the relationship between them with regard to the design?
Very good question, Your Worship. In the beginning of the report on page 2, the confidential that's just been tabled, notes that the governing body resolved on the 24th of September 2014 to endorse the steering group's recommendation to appoint a working party to scope the feasibility of a First World War Centennial Memorial. The working party have then gone on to further articulate what that would mean, and the intention is that they would fully develop the design of a war memorial.
And then bring it to us?
Yes, so through Mayor, the way in which this is actually supported through both council and the long-term plan is that the council has put $1 million worth of funding into the long-term plan, and that is then considered and implemented through the steering group, and who have appointed a working group to do so. They would therefore not have the powers to make the final decision. They would report back through the steering group and to the governing body.
That's what we're doing here now. Very good. Councillor Chris?
This is an open question, I think. It's not. Can I just get a sense of who evaluated the designs? Now, there was the steering group, and then you did refer to staff evaluations. So, what expertise was on that staff group to evaluate? It's a significant project, so just want to get a test of that.
Through Your Worship, the staff evaluation group was appointed by the working group, so the World War I Commemorative Memorial Working Group. That consisted of, from memory, 6 members. They were from a variety of disciplines and areas of expertise around this project, including heritage, art, parks, landscape and project management.
Can I ask if this project was referred to the Auckland Design Office, and did anybody look at...
Look, sorry, Chris, I think we're going into... We can ask that as part of the design, because we're going to have to make a decision today, one way or the other.
Okay, well, pick it up.
And at that point in time, we'll tease out the issue, but I think we're probably starting to get into detail. We don't really need to, because that will determine our final decision. Okay, good. Right, now, so we've got recommendations there. Now, for those that we want to have in the room, we've got Shale, we've got Greg, and who else? That's it? Yep.
There are also officers, I just want the assurance, Kay, and the team that have been working on World War I.
Right. Okay. Right, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Pass, thank you.